Lyra sat alone in the dark corner of the communication center. Her fingers moved quickly across the light panels as she worked on data files. The room was quiet except for the soft hum of machines. She liked it this way. When it was quiet, no one could say mean things about how she looked. The door opened with a bright flash of light. Commander Vex walked in with two other workers. Lyra tried to make herself smaller in her chair. She hoped they would not see her. "Where is the ugly one?" Commander Vex asked in a loud voice. "I need the transmission reports from the outer planets." Lyra's heart beat fast. She stood up slowly and walked toward them. Her legs were shorter than other Zephyrians. Her skin did not glow bright like theirs. Instead of the beautiful blue-white light that made other Zephyrians look like stars, her skin gave off only a dim yellow glow. "Here are the reports, Commander," Lyra said quietly. She held out a data crystal with shaking hands. Commander Vex looked at her with disgust. "You should work in the basement where no one can see you." "You make our department look bad," the other workers laughed. One of them whispered, "How did someone so ugly get born?" Her parents must have done something very wrong. Lyra felt tears in her eyes, but she did not let them fall. She had heard these words many times before. "Will that be all, Commander?" "Yes, go back to your corner and stay there," Commander Vex said with a wave of his hand. Lyra walked back to her desk. She sat down and continued working. Her job was to listen to signals from space and write reports about them. She was very good at this work, but no one cared. They only cared about how she looked. When the workday ended, Lyra packed her things and left the building. Outside, the crystal city of Zephyria stretched up into the purple sky. Beautiful buildings floated on clouds of light. Other Zephyrians flew between the buildings using their natural ability to control gravity. They all looked perfect with their tall, thin bodies and bright, glowing skin. Lyra could not fly like them. Her body was too heavy and her light was too weak. She had to take the transport pods that moved slowly between the lower levels of the city. As she waited for a pod, a group of young Zephyrians flew past her. "Look at that thing," one of them said, pointing at Lyra. "Is that even a real Zephyrian?" "Maybe it is sick," another one said. "We should stay away before we catch what it has." They laughed and flew away quickly. Lyra got into the transport pod and closed the door. She was alone again, which was better than being around others who hurt her with their words. The pod carried her to the lower district where she lived. This part of the city was darker and older. Most Zephyrians did not want to live here. It was perfect for Lyra because she could hide from everyone. Her apartment was small but clean. She had a few pieces of furniture and a large screen on the wall. This screen was her favorite thing in the whole world. With it, she could watch signals from other planets, especially from a place called Earth. Lyra turned on the screen and found a transmission from Earth. She had been watching these signals for many years. The beings from Earth called themselves humans. They looked very different from Zephyrians. They had strange colors of skin and hair. Some were tall, some were short. Some were thin, some were fat. But the most amazing thing about humans was that they seemed to like these differences. Tonight, she watched a human celebration called a wedding. The man was very tall and the woman was very short. The humans around them were happy and smiling. They did not point at the differences and laugh. Instead, they celebrated the love between the two people. Lyra touched her own face and wondered what it would be like to live among beings who did not care about how you looked. On Zephyria, everyone had to look the same way to be accepted. If you were different, you were pushed away and forgotten. She thought about her family. Her parents had stopped talking to her when she was still young. They said she brought shame to their name. Her brother and sister pretended she did not exist. They lived in the upper levels of the city with other perfect Zephyrians. A message appeared on her work terminal. It was from the High Command. Lyra read it carefully. Her eyes grew wide with surprise. The message said that Zephyria would make first contact with the humans from Earth. A diplomatic mission would happen soon at a space station. Lyra felt excited for the first time in many years. She knew more about humans than anyone else on Zephyria. She had studied their languages and their culture. Maybe, just maybe, she could help with this important mission. But then she remembered how she looked. No one would want her to represent Zephyria. They would choose the most beautiful Zephyrians for such an important job. She would probably have to stay home and watch from far away. Still, she could not help but hope. The humans in the transmission seemed so different from her own people. They seemed kind and accepting. What would it be like to meet beings who might not care about her ugly appearance? Lyra spent the rest of the night studying human languages and customs. She prepared herself, even though she knew she would probably never get the chance to use this knowledge. But preparing gave her hope, and hope was all she had left in her lonely life on Zephyria. 3 weeks later, Lyra received another message that changed everything. The High Command needed someone who understood human communication systems. They had looked at all the workers in the communication center. Lyra was the only one who had studied human languages deeply. Commander Vex was not happy about this. He called Lyra to his office with an angry face. "You will come with us to the space station," he said with disgust, "but you will stay hidden. The humans must not see you. You will only work on technical problems from behind the scenes. Do you understand?" Lyra nodded quickly. "Yes, Commander. I understand." "Good. If you embarrass our people in front of the humans, there will be serious consequences." 2 days later, Lyra found herself on a Zephyrian ship heading to a space station near a gas giant. The station was built by both Zephyrians and humans working together. It would be the meeting place for first contact. The Zephyrian delegation included 12 of the most beautiful members of their species. They all had perfect bodies and bright, shining skin. They practiced their speeches and prepared their gifts for the humans. Lyra stayed in a small room at the back of the ship, working on communication equipment. When they arrived at the space station, Lyra saw human ships for the first time. They looked different from Zephyrian ships. Where Zephyrian ships were smooth and crystal-like, human ships had many parts and pieces. They looked strong and practical rather than beautiful. The meeting room was large and bright. The Zephyrian delegation stood on one side, looking like perfect statues made of light. Lyra watched from a small control room behind dark glass. She could see everything, but no one could see her. The human delegation entered the room. Lyra stared at them with wonder. She had only seen humans on transmissions before. Seeing them in person was amazing. They came in different sizes and colors, just like in the videos. Some had dark skin, some had light skin. Some were tall, some were short. The leader was a woman with brown hair called Captain Lisa Ford. Next to her stood a man with dark skin called Dr. Ben Carter. But the human who caught Lyra's attention was a man with red hair and green eyes. His name was Jake Murphy, and he was setting up communication equipment. The meeting began well. Captain Ford spoke about peace and friendship between their peoples. The Zephyrian leader, High Ambassador Zeth, gave a beautiful speech about cooperation. Everything seemed perfect. Then Jake Murphy's equipment stopped working. The translation system that would let both species understand each other completely shut down. Jake pressed buttons and checked wires, but nothing worked. The other humans tried to help, but they could not fix the problem. Lyra watched from her hidden room. She could see exactly what was wrong. The Zephyrian and human systems used different energy frequencies. They needed a bridge program to connect them properly. It was not a hard problem to fix if you knew what to look for. She started typing quickly on her computer. Within minutes, she had written a program that would fix the translation system. But she was not supposed to help directly. She was supposed to stay hidden. Lyra looked at the humans struggling with their equipment. Jake Murphy looked frustrated and worried. The meeting was falling apart before it really began. If the translation system did not work, the two species could not communicate properly. She made a decision that would change everything. Lyra sent her fix program to Jake's equipment directly. She also sent a message explaining what was wrong and how to prevent it from happening again. Jake's face lit up with surprise and happiness. He quickly loaded the program and the translation system came back to life. Perfect translation resumed between the species. That was amazing, Jake said to his team. Someone just sent us the perfect solution. This is brilliant programming. He looked around the room trying to figure out who had helped him. I need to thank whoever sent this. This level of understanding of both our systems is incredible. Commander Vex heard this from his position with the delegation. He knew it must have been Lyra. His face turned dark with anger, but he could not say anything in front of the humans. Jake kept studying the program Lyra had sent. Captain Ford, whoever wrote this understands our systems better than we do. We need this person on our technical team. Can you find out who sent it? Captain Ford asked. Jake traced the signal back to Lyra's hidden room. It came from back there, he said, pointing toward the control room where Lyra was hiding. I will check on that, Commander Vex said quickly. He did not want the humans to discover Lyra, but Jake was already walking toward the control room. I just want to say thank you, Jake called out as he approached the door. Lyra heard his footsteps getting closer. Her heart pounded with fear. She had broken the rules by helping directly. Commander Vex would be very angry, but she could not hide anymore. Jake was right outside the door. The door opened and Jake stepped inside. He saw Lyra sitting at her computer and stopped. For a moment, they just looked at each other. Lyra waited for Jake to show disgust or shock at her appearance. She waited for him to ask why someone so ugly was part of the delegation, but Jake's reaction was completely different. You wrote that program? He asked with excitement. That was absolutely brilliant. You saved our entire first contact mission. Lyra could not believe what she was hearing. You are not disgusted by how I look? Jake looked confused. Disgusted? Why would I be disgusted? You just showed incredible skill and intelligence. That program was perfect. Commander Vex appeared behind Jake with anger in his eyes. This worker was not supposed to make contact with humans. She was only supposed to fix technical problems quietly. Jake looked back and forth between Commander Vex and Lyra. He could sense something was wrong. Why was she hidden? Someone with her skills should be leading the technical team. She is not suitable for direct contact, Commander Vex said coldly. Not suitable? Jake's voice showed confusion and growing anger. She just solved a problem none of us could fix. I formally request her as our primary technical advisor for this mission. Lyra stared at Jake with wonder. No one had ever requested to work with her before. No one had ever praised her skills while ignoring how she looked. For the first time in her life, someone saw her mind instead of her body. Commander Vex's perfect face twisted with displeasure, but he could not refuse a direct request from the human delegation without causing diplomatic problems. Very well, he said through gritted teeth. Lyra will work with your technical team. Jake smiled at Lyra. I am Jake Murphy. It is an honor to meet you. I am Lyra, she said quietly, still not believing this was really happening. Well, Lyra, I think this is going to be the beginning of something amazing. Working with the human technical team was like living in a completely different world for Lyra. Every morning she went to the joint research facility on the space station. Jake Murphy and his team treated her like she belonged there. The human team included Amy Chen, a small woman with black hair who worked on computer systems. Rick Rodriguez was a tall man with dark skin who handled power systems. Maya Patel had brown skin and a bright smile, and she worked on communication networks. All of them welcomed Lyra like she was their friend. On her first day working with them, Amy brought Lyra a cup of something called coffee. This is how humans start every morning, Amy said with a laugh. Try it. Lyra tasted the dark liquid and made a face. It was bitter and strange. The humans all laughed, but it was not mean laughter like she heard from other Zephyrians. It was the kind of laughter shared between friends. Not everyone likes coffee the first time, Jake said kindly. Maya, do you have any of that tea your mother sent? Maya brought Lyra a cup of sweet tea with spices. This tasted much better. My family is from a place called India on Earth, Maya explained. We have been making tea like this for thousands of years. Your family has different traditions? Lyra asked. Oh yes, Rick said. My family came from a place called Mexico. Amy's family came from China. Jake's family came from Ireland. We all have different backgrounds and traditions. Lyra was amazed. But you all work together without problems. That is what makes us stronger, Jake said. We each bring different ideas and ways of thinking. When we combine them, we can solve bigger problems. This was completely different from Zephyrian society. On her home planet, everyone tried to be exactly the same. Anyone who was different was pushed away. Over the next few weeks, Lyra and Jake worked closely together on communication systems. They had to build bridges between human and Zephyrian technology. It was difficult work, but Jake made it fun. During breaks, Jake showed Lyra pictures from Earth on his personal device. She saw cities full of humans who all looked different. She saw families where the parents had different colored skin from each other. She saw people in wheelchairs being treated with respect. She saw people of all sizes and shapes living normal, happy lives. On my planet, everyone who looks different gets pushed away, Lyra told Jake one day. I have lived alone my whole life because of how I look. Jake put down his tools and looked at her seriously. That is terrible and wrong. You are brilliant and kind. Anyone who cannot see that is the one with the problem, not you. Lyra felt tears in her eyes. No one had ever said anything like that to her before. You really mean that? Of course I do. You are one of the smartest people I have ever met. You solve problems that no one else can solve. You work harder than anyone. And you are always kind, even when people are mean to you. Those are the things that matter. As the days passed, Lyra began to feel something she had never felt before. She felt like she belonged somewhere. The human team always included her in their conversations. They asked for her opinions. They listened when she spoke. They shared their food with her and told her stories about their families. Jake spent the most time with her. He was patient when she did not understand human customs. He explained jokes when she looked confused. He shared his favorite music with her and asked about Zephyrian culture. What do you do for fun on your planet? Jake asked one day while they worked on a particularly difficult problem. I watch transmissions from Earth, Lyra admitted. I have been studying your people for years. Really? What did you learn about us? I learned that humans celebrate differences instead of hiding them. I learned that you help each other instead of competing all the time. I learned that you think love is more important than looks. Jake smiled. You learned the best parts of who we are. One evening, Commander Vex came to check on the technical work. He found Lyra eating dinner with the human team, laughing at one of Rick's stories. What is the meaning of this? Commander Vex demanded. Lyra, you are here to work, not socialize. The laughter stopped. The humans looked confused and angry. Lyra is part of our team, Jake said firmly. We always eat dinner together. She is not supposed to be visible to humans during non-work hours, Commander Vex said. She needs to return to her quarters immediately. Why? Amy asked. She is our friend. Commander Vex looked shocked that a human would question him. She is defective. She does not represent the best of our people. Defective? Jake stood up, his face red with anger. There is nothing defective about Lyra. She is brilliant and wonderful. Look at her, Commander Vex said with disgust. She is ugly and weak. She brings shame to our species. Maya gasped. Rick stood up beside Jake. Amy moved closer to Lyra, who was shrinking into her chair with embarrassment. You are the one who should be ashamed, Jake said, his voice shaking with anger. Lyra is worth 10 of you. She has more intelligence, kindness, and courage than anyone I have ever met. How dare you speak to me that way? Commander Vex said. How dare you treat her that way? Jake shot back. She is a person with feelings, not some tool you can hide when it is convenient. I am ordering her to return to her quarters now, Commander Vex said. And I am formally requesting that she be reassigned as permanent technical advisor to the human delegation, Jake said. Captain Ford has already approved it. Commander Vex looked furious, but he could not argue with an official request that had been approved by the human captain. He glared at Lyra. This is not over, he said before leaving. After he left, the humans gathered around Lyra. She was crying quietly. I am sorry, she said. I should not have caused problems. You did not cause any problems, Maya said gently. He did. How can your people treat someone so wonderful so badly? Amy asked. Because they cannot see past appearances? Rick said angrily. Jake knelt down beside Lyra's chair. Look at me, he said softly. When she looked up, he continued. You are beautiful, Lyra. Not because of how you look, but because of who you are. Your mind is beautiful. Your heart is beautiful. Your spirit is beautiful. Anyone who cannot see that is blind. Lyra felt something warm growing in her chest. It was a feeling she had never experienced before. For the first time in her life, someone saw her as beautiful, not in spite of how she looked, but including everything about her. Thank you, she whispered. That night, as Lyra lay in her new quarters near the human section of the station, she realized something amazing. She was not just working with the humans anymore. She was becoming one of them in spirit. They had accepted her completely, and in doing so, they had shown her what love really meant. Tomorrow, she decided, she would be brave enough to tell Jake how she felt about him. Maybe, just maybe, a human could love a Zephyrian who was different from all the others. 2 months after the first contact mission began, something wonderful happened. Jake, Murphy, and Lyra fell in love. It started slowly. Jake began staying late in the lab just to talk with Lyra. They would discuss everything from quantum physics to their favorite foods. Lyra learned that Jake loved old Earth music and terrible human jokes. Jake learned that Lyra had memorized thousands of Earth poems and could speak 12 human languages. One evening, while they worked alone in the lab, Jake said something that changed everything. "Lyra, I need to tell you something," he said, his hands shaking as he put down his tools. "What is it?" Lyra asked, worried by his serious tone. "I think I am falling in love with you," Jake said quietly. "I know we are different species, and I know your people might not approve, but I cannot help how I feel." Lyra stared at him with wide eyes. "You love me?" "Everything about you," Jake said. "Your brilliant mind, your kind heart, the way you laugh at my bad jokes, the way you work so hard to help others. You are the most amazing person I have ever met." Lyra felt tears of joy running down her face. "I love you too, Jake. I have loved you since the day you first treated me with respect." Jake moved closer and gently touched her face. "May I kiss you?" Lyra nodded and Jake kissed her softly. It was her first kiss and it was perfect. From that day on, Jake and Lyra were inseparable. The other humans were happy for them. Amy, Rick, and Maya treated their relationship as the most natural thing in the world, but the Zephyrian delegation was shocked and disgusted. News of their relationship spread quickly through the space station. Within days, word reached the Zephyrian homeworld. The reaction was immediate and horrible. High Ambassador Zeth called an emergency meeting. "This is a disaster," he announced to the Zephyrian delegation. "Our reputation is ruined. How can we explain that a human chose to love the ugliest member of our species?" "The humans must be trying to insult us," Commander Vex said. "They are mocking our species by choosing the defective one." "No," said a younger Zephyrian named Kira, who had been watching the humans carefully. "I have observed them. They truly do not care about appearance. They only care about character." "Impossible," High Ambassador Zeth said. "All intelligent species care about genetic perfection." But Kira was right. Captain Lisa Ford had sent a message to Earth about the relationship. The response from Earth was completely positive. Human leaders were excited that love had formed between the species. They saw it as a sign of successful diplomatic relations. The Zephyrian High Council on the homeworld was not pleased. They sent an urgent message to the space station. Lyra was ordered to return home immediately for genetic counseling and attitude correction. When Lyra received the message, she was terrified. She knew what genetic counseling meant. They would try to change her or lock her away where no one could see her. "I have to go home," she told Jake with tears in her eyes. "The High Council has ordered it." "No," Jake said firmly. "I will not let them hurt you." "You cannot stop them, Jake. They have the power to force me to return." Jake thought for a moment, then his face lit up with determination. "What if I came with you? To Zephyria? That is impossible. Humans have never been allowed on our homeworld. Then I will request permission. If I am there as an official human diplomat, they cannot refuse me." Jake went to Captain Ford immediately. "I need to go to Zephyria," he said. "Why?" Captain Ford asked. "Because the woman I love is in danger and because I think I can help both our species understand each other better." Captain Ford smiled. "Jake, I was hoping you would say that. Earth has been wanting to send a cultural observer to Zephyria. You are perfect for the job." 3 days later, Jake and Lyra boarded a ship to Zephyria. Lyra was nervous about Jake seeing her homeworld. She was afraid he would finally understand why her people thought she was ugly. When they arrived at Zephyria, Jake's breath was taken away by the beauty of the crystal cities floating in purple skies. But as they traveled through the city, Jake began to notice troubling things. He saw Zephyrians who looked different from the perfect ones being forced to use separate transportation. He saw children being separated into groups based on how bright their skin glowed. He saw beings who looked more like Lyra being hidden away in the lower levels of the city. "This is horrible," Jake whispered to Lyra as they walked through the upper city. "Your people are practicing segregation based on appearance." "This is how it has always been," Lyra said sadly. "Perfect ones live up here. Imperfect ones live below. Can I meet some of the others like you?" Jake asked. Lyra was surprised. "You want to meet more ugly Zephyrians?" "I want to meet more good people who have been treated badly," Jake corrected her. That evening, Lyra took Jake to the lower levels of the city. There, Jake met dozens of Zephyrians who had been cast out for being different. Some were short like Lyra. Some had scars or missing limbs. Some had unusual colors or patterns in their skin. All of them had been told they were worthless. Jake was amazed by what he found. These rejected Zephyrians were artists, inventors, philosophers, and scientists. They had created beautiful music, amazing art, and brilliant inventions. But their society ignored all of this because they did not look perfect. "You are all incredible," Jake told them. "On Earth, you would be celebrated for your talents." "Tell us about Earth," an elderly Zephyrian named Nox asked. "Is it true that humans do not care about appearance?" Jake spent hours showing them pictures and videos from Earth. He showed them human athletes with missing limbs who competed in the Olympics. He showed them scientists in wheelchairs who had made great discoveries. He showed them artists with unusual faces who were considered beautiful. He showed them leaders of all colors and sizes. The rejected Zephyrians listened with wonder and growing hope. "Could we ever visit Earth?" a young Zephyrian asked. "I will make sure you can," Jake promised. Word of Jake's visits to the lower city spread quickly. Some young Zephyrians from the upper city became curious. They began to sneak down to listen to Jake talk about human society. Commander Vex reported these activities to the High Council. "The human is spreading dangerous ideas," he warned. "He is making our rejects think they have value." "Bring him before the council," ordered High Counselor Zara. "We will put an end to this nonsense." But Jake was ready for them. He had spent days preparing a presentation that would challenge everything the Zephyrians believed about beauty and worth. The day of the council meeting, both Jake and Lyra stood before the most powerful Zephyrians in their society. Jake carried a small device that could project images and videos. "Members of the High Council," Jake began, "I come before you not as an outsider trying to change your ways, but as a friend trying to share what humans have learned about the true value of life." He activated his device and began to show them the history of humanity. He showed them how humans had once practiced segregation based on skin color and how they had learned it was wrong. He showed them how humans had once hidden away people with disabilities and how they had learned these people had great value. He showed them how human society had grown stronger and more creative as they learned to accept and celebrate differences. "You are wasting the talents of half your population," Jake told the council. "The Zephyrians you call imperfect have minds and hearts just as valuable as any others. My own species nearly destroyed itself by making the same mistake you are making now." High Counselor Zara was not impressed. "Humans may accept genetic defects, but we have higher standards." "Your standards are not higher," Jake said boldly. "They are cruel and wasteful. The woman I love has contributed more to the success of our diplomatic mission than any of your perfect representatives. Intelligence, creativity, and kindness are what make someone valuable, not the color of their skin or the shape of their body." "That female is genetically inferior," Commander Vex declared. "No proper being would choose her as a mate." Jake's eyes flashed with anger. "Lyra is the most beautiful person I have ever known. She is brilliant, brave, and compassionate. If you cannot see that, then you are the ones who are defective." The council chamber erupted in angry voices. Some council members were outraged by Jake's words, but others, especially the younger ones, looked thoughtful. "I propose a challenge," Jake said when the noise died down. "Let me show you what the rejected members of your society can accomplish when given a chance. Give them 1 month to work freely on any project they choose. If they fail to impress you, I will leave Zephyria and never return. But if they succeed, you must consider changing your laws." High Counselor Zara looked intrigued despite herself. "And if we refuse your challenge? Then Earth will know that Zephyria judges people by their appearance rather than their character. That information will be included in all future diplomatic relations," the council members whispered among themselves. Finally, High Counselor Zara spoke. "Very well. You have 1 month. But when your rejects fail, you and that defective female will be exiled from Zephyria forever." Jake smiled confidently. "Deal." As they left the council chamber, Lyra grabbed Jake's arm. "What have you done? How can you be so sure they will succeed?" Jake squeezed her hand gently. "Because I have seen what they can do when someone believes in them. Just like I have seen what you can do." That night, Jake and Lyra went to the lower city to share the news. The month that followed was like nothing Zephyria had ever seen before. In the lower levels of the city, the rejected Zephyrians worked day and night on their project. They called it the Gallery of Hidden Beauty. Lyra coordinated the entire effort. For the first time in her life, her natural leadership abilities could shine. She organized teams based on each person's skills. Nox led the artists. A scarred engineer named Vale designed new technologies. A group of philosophers wrote beautiful poems and stories. Jake helped by sharing human techniques for collaboration and creativity. He showed them how humans brainstormed ideas together and built on each other's thoughts. The rejected Zephyrians learned quickly and added their own innovative approaches. Meanwhile, word of the project spread throughout the city. Young Zephyrians from the upper levels began to sneak down to watch the work. They had never seen such creativity and passion before. In their perfect world above, everything was planned and controlled. Here in the lower city, art and innovation bloomed like flowers after rain. One young upper city Zephyrian named Zen asked if he could help with the project. He had always felt trapped by the expectations to be perfect. "You are welcome here," Lyra told him. "We judge people by what they do, not how they look." Soon, more young Zephyrians joined the project. They worked alongside the rejected ones and discovered that differences made the work better, not worse. Different perspectives led to more creative solutions. Commander Vex tried to stop these visits. He stationed guards to prevent upper city Zephyrians from going to the lower levels, but the young people found secret ways to continue helping. As the month progressed, something unexpected happened. Lyra's own family came to see what she was doing. Her parents, Zira and Kenth, had heard rumors about their daughter leading a great project. When they saw Lyra confidently directing the work of dozens of Zephyrians, they were amazed. When they met Jake and saw how much he loved and respected their daughter, they began to feel ashamed of how they had treated her. "Lyra," her mother Zira said quietly, "we owe you an apology. We were wrong to abandon you. We were afraid of what others would think," her father Kenth added. "But watching you now, we see that you have grown into someone remarkable." Lyra felt tears in her eyes, but they were happy tears. "I forgive you," she said. Family should stick together no matter what. Jake watched this reunion with joy. He understood how much it meant to Lyra to have her family accept her. On the final day of the month, the Gallery of Hidden Beauty was ready. The rejected Zephyrians had created something amazing. They had built a huge exhibition space that told the story of their society from a new perspective. The gallery showed the history of all the brilliant Zephyrians who had been rejected for their appearance. It displayed incredible art, music, and inventions that had been ignored because their creators were considered ugly. It demonstrated how much talent and creativity the society had wasted by focusing only on physical perfection. The centerpiece of the gallery was a beautiful sculpture created by all the rejected Zephyrians working together. It showed beings of all different shapes, sizes, and colors supporting each other and reaching toward the stars. The sculpture was more beautiful than anything in the upper city because it celebrated diversity instead of uniformity. The day of the presentation arrived. The entire High Council came to see what the rejected Zephyrians had created. Many upper city citizens came too, curious about what had been happening in the lower levels. High Counselor Zara walked through the gallery with a stern expression. But as she saw piece after piece of incredible work, her expression began to change. She stopped in front of a painting created by a Zephyrian with unusual purple skin. The painting showed the city as it could be, with all citizens living together in harmony. "Who created this?" she asked. "I did," said the purple-skinned Zephyrian nervously. "My name is Flux. This is extraordinary," High Counselor Zara admitted. "Why have we never seen your work before?" "Because no one ever asked to see it," Flux replied. "I was told my appearance made my art worthless." Commander Vex, who had been walking behind the High Counselor, spoke up angrily. "Do not be fooled by this display. These beings are still genetically inferior." "Then explain this," said another council member, pointing to a complex mathematical proof written on the wall. "This equation solves a problem our best scientists have been working on for years." The equation had been created by a short, stocky Zephyrian named Hex, who had been rejected from the Science Academy because of his appearance. As the council members continued through the gallery, they saw innovation after innovation. The rejected Zephyrians had created new technologies, beautiful art, moving music, and profound philosophy. They had accomplished more in 1 month working together than many upper city Zephyrians accomplished in years. The final stop was the sculpture at the center of the gallery. When High Counselor Zara saw it, she stood silent for a long time. "This represents our society as it could be," Lyra said, stepping forward to address the council. "A place where every citizen's talents are valued, where differences are celebrated instead of hidden, where worth is measured by character instead of appearance. Jake stood beside Lyra as she spoke. On Earth, we learned that diversity makes us stronger. The greatest human achievements came from people working together despite their differences, not because they all looked the same. High Counselor Zara looked around at all the amazing work created by the beings her society had rejected. She looked at the young upper city Zephyrians who had worked alongside them and learned to see beauty in new ways. She looked at Lyra standing confidently beside the human who loved her. "You have shown us something important," High Counselor Zara said finally. "We have been blind to the value of our own citizens," Commander Vex protested. "You cannot seriously consider changing our traditions based on this display." "I can and I will," High Counselor Zara replied firmly. "From this day forward, no Zephyrian will be judged solely by their appearance. All citizens will have equal opportunities to contribute to our society." The gallery erupted in cheers. The rejected Zephyrians embraced each other with joy. The young upper city Zephyrians celebrated alongside them. Even some of the older council members smiled at the happiness around them. But High Counselor Zara was not finished. "Furthermore, I name Lyra as our first ambassador of cultural understanding. She will work with the humans to help both our species learn from each other." Lyra could hardly believe what she was hearing. She, who had been considered the ugliest and most worthless Zephyrian, was being given one of the highest honors in their society. Jake took her hand and squeezed it gently. "You deserve this," he whispered. "You have changed an entire civilization." 6 months later, Lyra and Jake stood together in a beautiful ceremony that combined human and Zephyrian traditions. They were getting married in the first interspecies wedding in galactic history. The ceremony took place in the new cultural center that had been built where the Gallery of Hidden Beauty once stood. Zephyrians of all appearances attended alongside humans from Earth. Lyra's family sat in the front row, proud of their daughter. The former rejected Zephyrians, now respected citizens and artists, had created beautiful decorations for the wedding. Even High Counselor Zara attended, representing the new progressive government of Zephyria. When Jake and Lyra exchanged vows, they spoke about how love sees beyond the surface to the beauty within. They promised to continue working together to build understanding between their peoples. "I love you for exactly who you are," Jake said, looking into Lyra's eyes. "Your brilliant mind, your kind heart, your brave spirit, and yes, your beautiful face. You are perfect to me." "You taught me to see my own worth," Lyra replied. "You showed me that love is about accepting everything about someone, including the things that make them different. I love you for seeing the real me." As they kissed, the crowd cheered in multiple languages. Humans and Zephyrians celebrated together, showing how far both societies had come. After the ceremony, there was a great party with food, music, and dancing from both cultures. Old Commander Vex had been reassigned to a distant monitoring station, replaced by younger, more progressive leaders Flux. The purple-skinned artist had been commissioned to create a monument celebrating diversity that would stand in the center of the upper city. Hex, the mathematician, now led the Zephyrian Science Academy. Nox, the elderly philosopher, had become a respected teacher, whose students included both species. As the evening wound down, Jake and Lyra stepped outside to look at the stars. Lyra's skin glowed softly in the darkness, and Jake thought she had never looked more beautiful. "What are you thinking about?" Jake asked. "I am thinking about all the lonely beings on other worlds who feel like they do not belong," Lyra said. "Maybe we can help them too," Jake smiled. "I think that is exactly what we should do. The galaxy is full of people who need to learn that differences make us stronger, not weaker." They stood together under the stars, planning their future missions to spread the message of acceptance and love throughout the galaxy. What had started as one human's love for one rejected alien had grown into a movement that would change countless worlds. And somewhere in the lower city, now integrated with the upper levels, children of both species played.